Because unlike the COVID-19, there is no vaccine for climate change. And practically the more we wait and the more we push the can down the road, the worse it is from the environment.
Then our children and grandchildren, they will not only suffer from climate change, they will no longer have the means to change it, whatever they do. That's why, in fact, we are the last generation that can really make the difference.
Obviously, we have to recover from this severe economic crisis we're facing. Obviously, we cannot leave the climate change goals out of sight. Now, there's no other way around it. You have to strike it both.
Renewable hydrogen is an investment opportunity in this context that can bring big numbers of new jobs. We have seen that every billion invested in hydrogen can create 10,000 jobs along the supply chain.
We definitely want to see, I think, a shift towards renewable and low carbon hydrogen. And I think in order to achieve that, you're probably looking at binding target quotas for 2030.
So I think for the heating market, the big idea is to really have the renovation wave focus on renovating heating systems.
Invest more on research and innovation, special on the part of the pilot and the demonstration, so that we can decrease, still remove some of the technological problems and mainly decrease the price.
Wind is the cheapest option in most of Europe. Building new wind farms is now cheaper in much of Europe than running existing fossil-fired power stations. It provides jobs, often in areas where there are not many other jobs being created. Okay, it brings revenue to local communities and to local municipalities.
So there's no silver bullet to achieve that full decarbonization. So we need global regulations.
And really forward-thinking business leaders are understanding the impact of climate on them, on their long-term planning, and what they contribute to the climate, not just in terms of carbon emissions, but in these sort of systemic risk approach and how they fit into these larger systems.
The way people understand the challenge and the way there is knowledge about it, compared to something like plastics, where over the last 4 to 5 years, consumers have become really aware. Carbon footprint, likewise, consumers now really aware and really interested in it. The same is not really true of Nature Conservancy. And I think this is where, there is an elevated approach needed here in order to raise the profile of this and to make it as important in the eyes of consumers as indeed in the eyes of, in relation to plastic or related to carbon, as an example.
In creating the right competitive marketplace for recycled materials, creating the right demand and pull for these materials.
I feel there's a lot of pressure with the big idea here. I'm just going to bring it back to really this need for end-to-end digitalization of the supply chain, and that as norm, and that as a standardized kind of digitalization. So I think what the challenges are today is that every business has got their own kind of software stack that doesn't necessarily speak not just to each other, but also other businesses, other fashion brands in the industry. So that kind of ecosystem where people can share fabrics, collectively make change together, but also that system works also for the supply chain. So really, it's this digital core to the fashion industry.
My hope is that the EU looks at this technology as a powerful new intellectual tool that we have at our disposal to try to better understand the complexities and the challenges around us in the world.
With one basic thing, that would be access to high-speed internet for all rural communities across Europe, but also through the right regulatory policy framework, and to the point of Frank Bergovich, through trainings.
People who live in rural areas are entitled to reasonable standards of living, and that requires continual investment in the future.
Also, we are advocating a proactive approach to network sharing in vast majority of circumstances. So that's sharing infrastructure with other mobile network operators so that we can ensure the best available coverage.
But we need those skills, then we need the right infrastructure, and we need the right investment in research and innovation, but also that we encourage farmers to share data and that we have more trust in the sharing of data.
It's very important that we support young farmers and help them, and through them show the advantages of these technologies.
We need to help young people orientate towards jobs in the digital society and let them know that these jobs exist.
And if we look at maybe advanced skills, small and medium-sized companies, only 8%, according to the European Commission, only 8% are using, tapping into big data at the moment, which is, one of the huge potential areas of the future where growth is going to happen. And so small companies need to be able to employ the right people that can help them tap into these things.
Creativity comes from when you bring different people from different backgrounds together, not when you have the same people sat in a room that have the same upbringing and look the same, and you put them in a room and you ask them to come up with something innovative. That's not how creativity happens. So it is important that on a business level, we recognize we need to have diversity and inclusion, and report after report proves diversity yearns better results.
To fight gender inequality, to promote children's rights, in order to get better education and better healthcare. I think in terms of an international partnership in the work that we're doing around anti-Semitism, Chelsea are more than a local football club, more than just a British football club. We've got fans around the world, and by working with experts and well-respected partners, both domestic and internationally, I think it gives a real credence to our message, and helps promote the message that the dangers of anti-Semitism, where hatred can lead, and what other sports clubs, not just Chelsea, but what other sports clubs can do in this area.
One of the most important aspects is to have, at the very early stage, a strong support from the key countries, the key trading partners at high level, because otherwise the risk we have is, of course, the US will continue its own unilateral approach. China will continue to react, also saying that it respects the rules in WTO, but in fact it doesn't, because it has something else. And the EU will continue its way. So I think that the new person will need to, at the very early stage, sit with this, at least with this, without forgetting India, without forgetting Brazil, South Africa, but to try to talk not at technical level, but political level. Is there a political commitment on support for multilateralism and the WTO?
We are building tools and frameworks and mechanisms to assist companies, but all of this is really dependent on companies' willingness to engage and to be a part of the solution in the longer run.